When it comes to Moises Caicedo, I think every single fan that is Chelsea related wants him. Liverpool fans want him. Man United fans want him. Arsenal fans want him. But only one of us is going to get him. And the reality is Chelsea need to do whatever it takes. And I don't like what's coming out. I really don't like this news that's coming out. We're not willing to pay £80 million. Let's get into it. Welcome to the Kavkas View, Brad. Okay, and today's video is a very insightful one. Little bit of a rant, little bit of me getting a little bit upset, and little bit of me calling people out because I'm fed up with it, alright? £80 million is more than enough for Moises Caicedo. But before we get into the news and in little details, like I always say, we need to give you the rundown of what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about the Caicedo deal, that will be first. Then we'll talk about the Lavia deal and what's happening with it, whether he's going to Arsenal, whether he's going to Liverpool, whether Chelsea are even interested, because we've got some more information to come out after it went really quiet for a period of time. And finally, Maignan. Mr. Mike, Magic Mike as Gabriel Marcotti calls him. It looks like Chelsea are still interested in him. Player rejected us, but we are still grafting. We're one of those teams, you know them ones. He says no, but we're like, you know what, we can persuade you. Just give us one day. And in this case, we're going to get our date, hopefully. Ruben Loftus-Cheek looks set to leave, and Milan have started talks with us over Pulisic. How can that all intertwine into getting Mr. Maignan to Chelsea? We're going to get into that, but first, let's start with a Moises Caicedo, but you need to do something because you lot are receiving this content for free. So number one, hit the like button. We want to hit 1,000 likes, and you lot have been wonderful at doing it so far, so I really appreciate it. Do it now before you forget. Number two, if you want to leave a super chat in the comments below, greatly appreciate it. I will definitely reply to those. Another comment, if you can make me laugh, I normally reply, but otherwise the volume is just too big for me to reply. And finally, in a pinned comment is my Instagram. Go follow me there, and yeah, that's a good place for me to reply to you guys as well. If you follow and hit me up with a DM, football related questions, I usually respond. But now let's get on to the one and only Moises Caicedo. So Matt Law came out with a very interesting article. As per usual, Mr. Fed himself some information from the club has come out, and now he's come out with this. Chelsea are willing to come in with a second bid, but it's going to be likely under the £80 million mark that Brighton are currently asking for. We got the Times coming out saying Chelsea aren't willing to bid the £80 million mark because that's what Brighton is asking for. They're going to try and negotiate it, but they are going to be very careful not to annoy Brighton, because they understand that Liverpool, Man United, Arsenal, and God forbid Manchester City are interested in the player, so they don't want to ruin any relationship. Personal terms with the player are agreed. The player wants to come, the player likes the project. That's what we've been hearing over and over again. Ben Jacobs has went as far as saying that the interest from Manchester United is nowhere near as concrete as they're trying to perceive it. They are interested in Money Mason, they want Mason Mount, and this is basically a warning to Chelsea, like, okay, if you're going to waste our time and not accept the fee for Mason Mount, we're going to go after Moises Caicedo, who costs 20 million more. And then there are people that are going to say, the reason they don't want to pay 60 million for Money Mason is not because they're broke, it's because of the evaluation of the player. Guys, there's 3 years in age gap between them, right? And the reality is, we all know, whether rightly or wrongly, there's an English premium tax on a player. When you play in the English league and you're English, when you're moving from one club to another, there's always a tax. I don't know how, because otherwise I wouldn't understand how Declan Rice is a £100 million player. So the reality is, 1 year or no 1 year, Mason Mount for 55 million is not an acceptable offer. You want him 65, if not, maybe we could give you for 60. But otherwise, Man United, get your hands in those pockets. We know you eventually will, and start handing out the money. And finally, the Caicedo deal. If I'm Tony Bloom, listen, I really hope no one from Brighton's watching this, but this is me coming from my perspective, right? I'm not biased. I'm actually very, very objective. If I'm Tony Bloom, I want £100 million for Moises Caicedo. And the reason is, you paid for 106 for Enzo, and I'm seeing Declan Rice go for a plus minus £100 million. Why on earth am I selling you one of the best midfielders in the world, one of the best young midfielders in the world for £80 million? Why are you getting a discount? What, you think this is compensation for the Cucurella deal? You're not even giving me Levi Colwell. You're paying me £100 million. And you know what? They shouldn't be moving off that line. Whether they do, whether Chelsea secure some kind of nice relationship, I don't know. But the reality is, I think 80 million is a bargain. And if Matt Law is saying the truth and Chelsea aren't willing to match it, we're idiots. We need to go and secure this player ASAP. Stop wasting time. One player that's gone very quiet, and when I say very quiet, I mean silent, radioactive silent. We haven't heard nothing about Romeo Levey for a good 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And the reason being is because Arsenal want him, and apparently Arsenal are going to get him if Thomas Partey leaves, and they're going to try to do their very best to secure his services. Today we got some reports from Fabrizio Romano that Liverpool have started conversations again with the player and trying to pay the fee. Southampton are asking for £50 million sterling for a player that just got relegated, and they signed only for 12 million, which is actually wild when you think about it. But at the same time, we paid 106 million for Enzo Fernandez. Like, that's the way I justify moves these days. I'm not gonna lie to you. We paid 106 million for Enzo. They can ask for whatever they want because Benfica have set the precedent of asking for whatever they want and getting it. Chelsea apparently are still interested. They've done a lot of the groundwork with Joe Shields. However, it's gone quiet. Why do I think it's gone quiet? I think teams are waiting for the 1st of July. And the reason I think they're waiting for the 1st of July, not because they want some apple pie, but the reason they're waiting for 1st of July is the new financial year. They want it to go into the books for next year. I think this is what's going to happen with the Moses Caicedo deal. I think he'll be announced in next year's books. I think Lavia will be announced in next year's books. And I'm not saying for Chelsea. I'm saying for all other clubs. I think clubs have already done the business they want to do. They're most probably going to try sell some players to balance out the books so they don't get into trouble with financial fair play. But the reality is they're going to actively go and try to manipulate the books for next year. Make it look nice and decorative and give them as much time to balance them for next season. Is the player good? Fantastic. I think the player is a good young talent. Is he worth the money of £50 million? Potentially. What's a player worth these days? He's worth whatever the club feels he's worth to them. And the reality is he good enough for Chelsea? Yes, 100%. Would I love a deal of Santos, Caicedo, Enzo, and Lavia? I would love that mid. The options there are phenomenal. It gives us balance, it gives us harmony, and if we're going to a 4-3-3, keep Carney or keep Caicedo, whatever his name is. A lot of you love it when I call him that, Caicedo. It is what it is, right? Reality is we don't need to go and buy no more experience. We should have kept some experience. We didn't. But sell Conor Gallagher, that's one thing we have to do. Move him on. Enough is enough. I don't want to keep him at the club next season. And the final story is an interesting one, because for all you give the manager what he wants, you have to give the manager what he wants, merchants. Under no circumstances do you give the manager exactly what he wants. Because some managers have horrible talent. Alright? For everything I'm hearing about Poch at this moment in time, it sounds like the guy's got terrible taste in players. Like, let's be honest. He wants Viega from Celta Vigo over Joao Felix. Horrible choice. He wants to make Kepa his number one. Horrible choice. He wants to keep Cucurella. I'm worried about that choice. There's just so many things I'm hearing about him. I'm worried. He's not pushing for a number 9. I'm worried about that choice. Is he a great tactician? 100% he's a great tactician. There's a reason he's a great coach. It's because he knows how to get the best out of his players. Is he a good person to identify talent? Most probably no. Evidently, by looking at the players he's signed in the past and the players he wants to sign at Chelsea, what we're hearing, I'm a little bit worried. But Chelsea apparently aren't listening. Chelsea are going to go and try to get Maignan. And what I'm interested here is, how are you going to go get Maignan? Because we've heard reports that the players' camp aren't interested. The fact that there's no Champions League, he ain't going to come. And the reality is, we're not paying those big boy wages anymore. Everything's on an incentive basis. Unless you give him a deal like you gave Mudryk, Enzo, where you give him big boy wages with great incentives if we hit the Champions League, if we hit this, if we hit that, almost to balance the books. That I'm all for. But he is 27 years old. I've got no problem with that, by the way. I think it's the right thing to do. Bring in some experience, bring in some leadership, bring in some know-how of how to win league title, bring in some captaincy leadership qualities into this team, because I think we need that. One way we could do that, because Milan are going to ask for a lot of money, we could offer them players that they want. We know they want Ruben Loftus-Cheek. The deal is back on the table. Fabrizio Romano has reported this. They view him as a replacement for Sandro Tonali. £15 million he's going to cost them. One of the reasons he's going so cheap, Ruben gets a whole lot of money, man. Ruben's wages are very good. And I think one of the ways that Chelsea are going to compensate him for moving on is almost like, look, you're moving to Milan, take your pay cut. We're going to charge him a bit less, or Milan, and hold this part of the fee. or there's just going to be some sort of agreement that just enables the club to move on. I don't know why Ruben's gone from 25 million euros to 15 million euros, any other reason other than we're just trying to get him out off the books right now, take the profit, and just move on from Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I'm really sad to see him go. I think he's a very good player. I do think he would have been a good fourth choice midfielder, but if you're promoting Santos, if you're promoting Carney Chukwuemeka, if you're promoting Caicedo, as I like to call him, then so be it. So be it. And finally, the last one. Christian Pulisic is in talks with Milan. This deal could potentially happen. I don't know whether it will or not, because Pulisic is another one that makes a heck of a lot of money. And are Milan going to pay? Whether do Milan actually have the money up front to go and bid for him? We know they're interested in Romelu Lukaku, but that's just all coming out now. Di Marzio's saying that they've started conversations with his camp, with his representatives. We know that his representatives have been talking to Lyon. I think Pulisic's one that's going to run. We're going to generate a lot of money to put on the books this year. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, but we're going to be here on the Kavkas View covering it. So like I said, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. I hope you lot enjoyed the video. I'm going to be back with more news hopefully tomorrow or the day after. Let me know your thoughts, peeps. So like I said, hit the like button. We're aiming for 1,000 likes. We're trying to get to 30,000 subscribers ASAP. So if you can help with that, I'll be very grateful. And finally, if you want to leave a little super chat to make sure I reply to you guys, you know what to do in the comments below. Peace out. I'm out. Have a nice day.